Hello and welcome to this, the first in a series of programmes called Claremont's Songs and Chatter. It's a cross between Songs of Praise, the Graham Norton Show and the Two Ronnies. But it's really the two Daves.
Thank you very much, Davey. And so for the next half hour or so, we're going to hear some great songs and the story behind one of our favourite hymns.
In each episode, we're also going to interview a member of the congregation. It's called Characters at Claremont. And for this episode, we've interviewed somebody who's well known to us all. In fact, he was on national TV recently. I wonder if you could think who that might be.
Here's the news. Italy celebrates a relaxation in lockdown.
So to get the ball rolling, here's Praise Gathering singing I Wanna Sing a New Song. And look out for some Wheel Kent faces.
On a Sunday, we stand and we sing all the words of the hymns, the praise band, we play them all, but we never really think of the story behind the hymns. What was the motivation that drove some of these songwriters and these people to write some of the most beautiful, beautiful hymns? We're going to explore that a wee bit, and we're going to go behind the hymn Amazing Grace. Now, when we asked the congregation for their favourite hymn when we were making the CD, Amazing Grace came back as one of the favourites. It came back with a lot of people wanting that on the CD. So let's look behind the hymn. It was written by John Newton, who was born in 1725. And as a young boy, John's mother was a very godly person, and she taught him all the scriptures and all the hymns. But sadly, she died just before his 7th birthday. And when John was 11, his dad took him off to sea. His dad was a sea captain, and he spent the next 20 years at sea. He was quite an offensive man. He was quite full-mouthed, blasphemous, and really a difficult man to get on with. And so much so that his ship abandoned him in Africa, and he got a job with the slave trade. But he didn't change his way, and he ended up in prison and in chains, and his father had to arrange to get him released and brought back home. And on a journey back home, the sea storms came up, and it was touch and go whether or not the boat was going to sink. And it was all hands on deck, and Newton is claimed to have said, "Lord, have mercy on us," as he was at the wheel trying to weather the storm. Now, miraculously, they did get to land, but he never ever forgot that experience. And although he stayed working in the slave trade, that was a significant turning point, because he remembered all his mother's teachings, and it began a turning point in his life. Now, years later, he studied theology and became an Anglican priest. And in 1772, he was writing his New Year's sermon, and he wanted a hymn to go with it. And he penned what we now know as Amazing Grace. The funny thing about Amazing Grace is, over the years, it's been modified, and there's been other people who have done various versions of it. The one that we sing now is a version called Amazing Grace, My Chains Are Gone. And that version was written by a young British hymn writer, Chris Tomlin. And Chris Tomlin was on a plane with a friend, and the friend said to him that he was producing a film around William Wilberforce. And now John Newton had worked with William Wilberforce to bring about the Slave Trade Act and the abolition of slavery. So this friend said, "We're making a new film about William Wilberforce. Would you like to do an arrangement of Amazing Grace for the film?" So Chris Tomlin thought about the time that Newton himself was in chains, and also the slaves on ships coming over in chains, and how God's love removes all those chains from us. And that's the focus that he had on writing those new verses or choruses for Amazing Grace, My Chains Are Gone. So the next time we're singing Amazing Grace, just think of the motivation and the story that lies behind it. Now, for each of these programs, we're going to take a hymn, and we're going to explore the story that lies behind it. Amazing Grace.
Amazing
So in tonight's Characters at Claremont, I'd like to introduce you to Tam Stevenson, although Tam really needs no introduction. Tam, it's good to have you with us, teeth and all. Now, we see you most regularly playing the guitar and the castanets in the praise band. Is guitar playing a fairly new hobby for you?
No. I've been playing since I was 10.
Oh,
Started learning when I was 10.
so that's about 80 years ago.
That's about just 78 years ago, aye. Not far away.
Right, I've got a photograph here. It's a picture of a band from about 40 years ago. Who's that wee boy in it? Well, it's a wee boy with some musicians around him. Wee boy now.
All right. Right. That was taken when I was 14.
You were 14?
14.
Right.
Still at school.
What were you doing there? You weren't playing with the
Well,
band?
I was playing with the band. We were resident in Cobo Park.
Oh, in Motherwell.
Over Motherwell. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
We were resident in there Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Right. That was a kind of sports.
And then Monday morning up for school again.
So when you left school, what did you do?
Well, when I left school, my mother and father always had this argument. My dad said I could. He looked at my report cards and saw how bad they were. So round about when I was 13, 14, he went to my guitar teacher and asked him if I was ever going to be able to play this thing and make money for it. And my guitar teacher said aye. But my mother, to get her way, made me apply for a job in Cowens in Hamilton, Cowens Outfitters.
Right.
So I was in there. I went for a week. I never got to sell any jackets or any pairs of trousers. Nothing. My wage packet at the end of the week was £11.
Right.
So that was just when I left school at 15. It was £11. I was already playing 3 nights a week in Coalville Park.
Right.
So I had £300 or £400 in the bank, because obviously I was too young to drink or smoke or anything.
Right.
So I was in, and I just thought £11 for a whole week's work is no use to me. So it made my mind up then that the guitar was not going to be a hobby.
Right.
It was going to be the thing to practice, learn, try and do it right.
Now, as we saw earlier, you were on television fairly recently. That's not the first time you've been in telly. Here's a photograph of, I believe, your band. Is that really you dressed as a clown?
Yes. The only front man in a band who didn't really sing. But it stuck me in the middle because I started to get involved in a sort of comedy in a band. I was in a comedy duo before that called The Odd Couple.
The Odd Couple? Were you both of them? Both of
them? No, the other guy was the odd one.
So what sort of gigs did you play then?
Well, with the duo, The Odd Couple, we were up and down from the northeast England. We played down in Wales, down in London. Went to the London Palladium to get our pictures taken.
Right.
With Arthur Askey.
Oh, you're kidding. That's a blast from the past.
He was one of the judges on a show that The Odd Couple were on down in London.
Right. Pretty wild lifestyle, was it?
Pretty wild. in show business, if it's your full-time work, which it was for me, you don't need to go looking for drugs and you just, everything's available.
Right. So how did you get involved in the church then?
We stopped at a shop in Hamilton, and Ellen went into the shop herself to buy a present. It's as if my whole life invaded me. And I felt absolutely terrible. I felt awful about the way I was living my life. And just the whole thing hit me this one day. And I hadn't been to church before, never wasn't brought up in church. The next morning, that was a Saturday. The next morning I got up and my wife says to me, "Where are you going?" Because I was up early. I said, "I'm going to church." And her immediate reaction was, "What's wrong? What's up? What's going on? What's happening?" And I said, "I just need to go to a church." So I went to a church, our local church, and Captain Stephen Anderson for the Salvation Army, he was the preacher that day, and he just didn't miss. It's as if I was the only person in that church. I was mortified as well because I had my hair dyed blonde, had my earrings in, and I was sitting in a church, embarrassed because I didn't know any of the songs. Didn't know when to stand up, when to sit down, but the message just tore right into me. I needed to know this forgiveness.
Great.
And with it, I was going to be a goner.
And you moved on from there. You've now got a degree.
Yes, I went to the BTI when it was called the BTI. I left show business because it was getting harder and harder for me to do the things that I was expected to do as a comedy show band. I was in charge of the comedy, and a lot of it was pretty crude. And I applied to the BTI. I got in there, and it was a 3-year full-time course. Went in there and got the diploma and stuff. Just after that, where I became pretty disillusioned. Not with God and not with Christ, but with Christians. Eventually, when I come through that, which music really helped me, eventually when I come through that, I went to our minister here in Quarter, the new minister we had, and asked if he would put me forward to be a reader.
Right.
And he said no. So I decided to use that time, rather than go back into show business, I decided to use that time to go to the ICC, which it was called by then, International Christian College. And I did a degree in there in theology.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'd finished that, that was 2 years. When I finished that, I went back to the minister and asked him to put me forward to be a reader. And he said no again. So rather than, I just didn't know what to do next. So I ended up, I was teaching the guitar for a while and learning to repair guitars and set them up.
You've been coming to Claremont now for 7 years?
It's about 6 or 7 years, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Why Claremont?
Music again, initially, because Davy Jones, as you know, he was there before me. Davy, and he invited me along, not to play, just to come back.
Right.
Because I had a few discussions with Davy in the workshop. Which was the time for me to recall some of the times I had when I was as a reader in the church, taking children's addresses, and I get really upset one day, and David witnessed it, and I just started crying in the workshop. And he invited me back. He invited me to Claremont, so I came back. Yeah, I came up to Claremont, and I found that it's the most non-judgmental church I've ever been in.
Right.
And part of my disillusionment, and that I was telling you about in the past, was with Christians who constantly judged me. Claremont, and experienced there some joy that I had lost.
Right.
And the big part of it is not to be judged.
Excellent. You've recently made a recording that's available online. What's all that about?
Yeah, well, some people, because of the incident with the teeth falling out while I was playing the guitar, I put it on Facebook and it went viral, so there's about nearly 500,000 hits. And also put some guitar music on as well. And people were asking if there was an album available or any music available. So there's 12 tracks that I had recorded, but never really put them out or anything, just gave them to friends and family. So we'll put 8 tracks together, and for a donation, you can download the album, and the 100% donation will go to the NHS.
Excellent. We'll put the details up on the screen later on.
Yeah.
Sam, it's been good speaking to you, even though we're that distance apart. Wonder if you'd be good enough to play something for us on the way out. Okay?
Okay.
Take care. God bless you. So that's all for this evening. Thank you for watching. But just before we go, here are some late news items.
A man started a boat building company in his loft. He's seen his sales go through the roof.
A 3-foot psychic has escaped from Berlin prison. The police are on the lookout for a small medium at large.
The minister, who preached longer than he should, asked a member of the congregation why he had got up and left during the service and had come back. The man said, "To get a haircut." The minister said, "Shouldn't you have gone before the service?" And the man replied, "I didn't need a haircut before the service."
A cartoonist has been found dead in his home. The police say that the details are rather sketchy.
I was at a house building competition last week. I got through to the semis.
I told my doctor I had a problem with my left ear. She said, "Are you sure?" I said, "I'm definite."
When the minister was at a conference, the manse was broken into. The thieves stole the minister's limbo dancing pole. The minister said, "How low can you get?"
So that's all for now. So it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
Good
Good
night.
night.